the way to get a foothold and to, you know, if the Bomber Command didn't carry out what they did, we may not even be sat here having this discussion because we probably would have lost.
Yeah, but the question, does that justify? Are we justifying the killing of civilians to win a war?
It's realities of war. Unfortunately, it is.
It doesn't have to be.
But Kahindi,
They're actually legal.
But we're in the war.
I think that everybody can be aware of the context and acknowledge the deaths of civilians, but at the same time commemorate, memorialise and honour those people who were in Bomber Command, who gave their lives in order to try and win the war against the Nazis. I think all of those things can happen at the same time.
I don't think it's an either-or. What I'm saying is we're talking about a war crime. There's no other way to describe it, and the best way to remember it is not a statue. Everything doesn't need a statue. I think we should memorialise those dead. I think it's a tragedy that they died.
So where am I going to take my children? You know, are we just going to read it off the history books, or actually do we go and have a visual aid which is so powerful? I went down there and it nearly brought me to tears yesterday. You know, because it was such a powerful image. The memorial it was shot as the men who survived came back off their bombers and looked up to probably say thank you very much.
But in that story, we've forgotten the 500,000 people who were killed.
We don't forget.
We haven't forgotten because you're talking about it on national
Let's be honest, the
television.
only reason we're talking about it is because it was defaced, right? I grew up in this country, I've learned about this, we hear this kind of mythical
These are our great British values, so what, are we going to strip away our great British values?
And one of those values we don't hear about the fact that this was a war crime. The bombing of Germany was a war crime. Why would we celebrate that?
Why would you say the bombing of Germany is a war crime?
Because you bombed. If you go,
Germany was run by Adolf Hitler
on
and the
civilians,
Nazis, and they were trying to take over the world and turn us into a bunch of Nazis.
So let me turn it
Why
around.
is it a war crime to defeat a Nazi aggressive assault on the planet? Explain to me. Why is that the war crime?
So you are honestly
saying the war crime is Adolf Hitler.
No, actually. So honestly, are you honestly defending the use of it to win a war, to say it's perfectly fine to target civilians and kill indiscriminately, kill as many civilians as possible? Because that sounds a lot like people
flew thousands of missions. Thousands of missions. We're only going to talk about the residential.
More than half of those were for residential, area bombing, purposeful killing. And actually, you have to be honest about it. And why is your version of Britishness so
because I serve my country.
Shallow that you can't take and say, look, this particular thing was a bad thing.
Why is your version of Britishness always predicated on a negative? Why do you see all the things that the rest of us are proud of as being sticks to beat this country with?
It's not about
Why can you not accept that sometimes when you have a world war like World War II, where clearly you have a demented leader in Adolf Hitler with a very well-resourced army and the Nazis wanted to take us over and turn us all into Nazis, why can you not understand that sometimes
you have
actually
to fight back.
we are
justifying the killing of women and children, hundreds of thousands.
I'm justifying the repelling of the Nazis.
Because that is a war crime, by the way. Like you just justified.
So do you think that Britain's?
I think we should generally be.
So just to clarify, was Britain's entire war effort to repel the Nazis a war crime?
No, and that's not what I said. I actually think you should be very proud of the Second World War. But I think that actually the history, particularly of Bomber Command, is so tied up in the killing of civilians. We have to just say, look, that's not something we should be proud of.
It was a small part of the history of Bomber Command. They flew thousands and thousands of operations.
Over 50% of the bombers that were dropped on people, civilians, not military.
Well, I
think we should be able to say this is a bit problematic, and let's just.
Okay.
I think you're perfectly entitled to say it's a bit problematic.
You always come on here and you know that your views are not going to be popular, and I respect the fact that you have your view. You know your history. I know that. I think your view
of. Thank goodness we live in a country where we're entitled to say things like that.
You would not have had this conversation had the Nazis prevailed in World War II and taken over this country. It wouldn't have been allowed. You wouldn't have had a debate like this. You wouldn't have had the freedom. Well,
you can't justify terror by saying we want a war. Come on.
You can shrug your shoulders.
Realities of war, and unfortunately, innocent civilians do get hurt, and no one condemns that. No one condemns that. That's the bottom line.
What about the British civilians who got killed?
No, so the next time a terrorist lets off a bomb and says we're killing because it's a war, I'll remind you of this, because you just justified it. That is the same justification, exactly the same.
What about the British civilians who got killed by Nazis?
It's also terrible as well. And I
why aren't you as exercised about that?
I'm saying we shouldn't put up a memorial for war crimes. That's what I'm trying to say. Let's not put up a memorial for war crimes.
Kahindi? Good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Brian, good to see you too. You've got a big book coming out, which is creating a lot of waves in military circles. I know you're coming back
what's it called, Brian?
To discuss it.
Double-crossed.
Double-crossed, but it's creating a lot of waves before it's even been published, and I think it's going to create a lot more when it is published, and we wish you all the very best with that.
Thank you, Chris.
It was an outrage what happened to you, and it's about time that the country heard about it. Okay.
7:46. Still to come on the programme, the teenage